In this lecture, we are going to go over score orders. Now, I'm going to just briefly go over orchestral score order. And normally you want thinner woodwinds or higher woodwinds first. You want middle woodwinds like clarinets second, bassoons third, horns fourth, trumpets, trombones, tuba, timpani, and then percussion, and then your harp and piano under other instruments or synthesizer even, and then you want your strings last. Violins, 1, 2, viola, cello, and orchestra. So that's the full orchestra score order. And when we do our score orders for chamber orchestra, it's a little bit smaller than that. Usually when you do a chamber orchestra, it's a little less of the low brass in some instances, because chamber orchestra is just that. It's a small orchestra. It's chamber, very intimate. So here's chamber templates. Let's go to orchestral. Actually, I want to go to orchestral templates. So here's the chamber orchestra template that we have. I'm just going to name it. And all is well. So I'm just going to name it and have that be it. So here is the order that you'd want. You want your flutes and your piccolo. Usually it's just flute here. And then you want your oboe. Then you want your B-flat clarinet. You want your bassoons. Okay. So oboe is there. Clarinet is there. Notice English horn is optional. It's not really in there for chamber. It could be if the composer wishes to write a English horn part. You could just as easily put some of that in oboe. Not all of it, but depending on the part, you can put it some of the English horn, mid-range and maybe upper range of the English horn and the oboe to get a similar sound. Clarinets 1 and 2 are following this, and then bassoon. Sometimes you'll have one clarinet part with like two clarinets reading off of it, two clarinet lines, and then one for bass clarinet. And then we have our bassoons. Then we have our French horns. So now we're going from woodwinds. We're going from woodwinds down to low woodwinds, and now we're going to go to brass. Now we start going from brass that is not as bright, which French horn is not as bright unless you use stopped hand technique or some other technique to brighten it. And we go to trumpets, which are bright. Trumpet 1 and 2. This has C trumpet. A lot of times orchestra will use C trumpet or B flat trumpet. You can substitute either of those. And then you have, on this particular chamber orchestra, you don't have trombones or tubas. You can put trombone parts in here. Usually you don't have trombone parts and tuba parts in a timpani or a chamber orchestra rather. Usually it's pretty stripped down to these basics. And then you have timpani, then you have your other instruments. Timpani and your unpitched instruments will go right here. Then you have piano and or harp. Then you have your violins, your violin 1, 2, viola, cello, and double bass. So, and this is just a really stripped down version of the chamber orchestra. It's very small. You're talking at least 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 players, maybe even 8 to 20. 20 at the max. It's not going to be crazy big. It's not like a symphony orchestra where it's huge. So, that is the layout for chamber orchestra. And in the next video, we go over the concert orchestra and how big that is.